You're watching HCAM TV.
Hello, Hopkinton, and welcome to the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm your host, Mike Terosian, and tonight is the Wednesday night edition, November 11th, 2020, November 11th being Veterans Day. So we're going to do a show, all things veterans, and we have a couple very special guests with me. Co-hosting with me tonight is one of my favorite Navy veterans, Bob Hamilton. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Mike. And hello, Carolyn. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hi, Bob. Good to see you.
Yes, and we are especially glad to have our favorite state representative, Carolyn Dykema, with us. Carolyn, who most of you know, I hope everybody that watches knows, is our state representative, the 8th Middlesex District, if I...
That's right. Good memory, Mike.
Okay, I try. I do my homework sometimes.
You do well.
And everyone knows how much Carolyn loves the veterans. So I was so glad when I asked her on Friday to be on the show, and she, of course, said yes. I'm just glad she had the time with everything that she does. And so, Carolyn, how are you? We haven't spoken in a while.
I'm doing really well, Mike. You know, all things considered, it's definitely a different world out there these days. But like everybody else, I think we're just adapting to a new normal, and just grateful that, you know, the communities are doing well. My family, of course, is all doing really well. I've got a couple of remote learners, but other than that, we're doing great.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. So how are things at the State House under COVID? What's it like compared to, I remember when you used to invite me there for events and everything, and how robust and active it was. Is it more ghost townish? What's the State House like these days?
Yeah, so, you know, in terms of the work, we're getting all of the same work done, obviously, that we've always done, but there is virtually no one in the building. It's a skeleton crew. The building is closed to the public and has been since March. So we do everything remotely, and it's been really remarkable, just like everyone else with the technology, managing to connect in. And I'll give you an example. So normally we do our state budget, which takes, you know, several days, and it's usually done in July. And because of COVID and the uncertainty around revenues, we're doing a late budget. So we're actually right now in the middle of our budget week, believe it or not. We had votes last night until about midnight, and then we'll be up early tomorrow and going through late date tomorrow again, with obviously having Veterans Day off. But we do everything remotely. So we can get online. We've got, you know, a handful of people in the building, in the House chamber, kind of running operations and calling for votes. I sit here pretty much in the same spot I am now, with my computer in front of me, where I can see what's going on in the House floor. And we have a special dial-in number on our phones, which is all completely secure, so we can hear what's going on the floor. And we have votes that we just call in, so we vote by a phone. So it's definitely a different world. One of the things that I miss, obviously, a lot of politics is about sharing information, right?
Right.
So we spend hours on the House floor between votes, just talking and, you know, hearing what people up to or what they were working on. And that's a little more challenging. Now we have to, you know, call people and kind of be more proactive about sharing information, but all things considered, it's good.
Right. And there's a lot of people know you know, the host, forget about all those coffee hours and office hours that you host, but you are out in the public a lot. I mean, I see you a lot. Everyone sees you a lot. And this must be killing you, because I know how much you love being out in the public.
I do. It's the best part of the job, Mike. It's just, you know, the chance to interact with people, and it actually kind of feeds me. It's really not, in my view, it's really not possible to represent your constituency like I know they expect to be represented if you're not, you know, listening to their concerns and interacting with them on a daily basis. So that has been challenging, but people have been great. People have been reaching out by email. There have been, you know, some events that we're still able to go to, socially distanced, obviously, but, you know, small group meetings. So there's still, you know, still very much back and forth that keeps me in tune with the community. but I do miss people. And there's one message I'd like to get out to people tonight. Is I miss everybody, and I can't wait to be back and see more people in the community.
Well, I'm glad they get to see you, and hopefully some that are watching, we have a lot of people that like to watch online. We invite you for your questions and comments while Carolyn is on, and of course with Hank later. And Matt, if you're listening, Hank is having a little trouble connecting. He is in the room with his video, but not his audio. I don't know if you can chat with him on that. So yeah, and Hank Alessio is our other guest, my favorite Hopkinton veteran, anyways. So Carolyn, yes, with the social part, near and dear to your heart is a group that's our veterans, and I know how much you enjoy that. So what's it been like trying to connect during these times?
Yeah, it's been hard. My dad is a veteran, obviously, so my connection to veterans goes way back. And when I was first elected to the legislature, I was put on the Veterans and Federal Affairs Committee, which is the committee where all of the pieces of legislation that are filed come to basically be vetted. So we hear all of the testimony that come in on veterans related bills, and a lot of the stories that we heard in that committee were pretty powerful, which just was a kind of impetus for me to connect even more directly with the veterans in the community. So, I try to stay in touch as best I can. One of the things I did not long after I first got elected was I started the Metro West Veterans Consortium in conjunction with some local veterans across the district as a way to, as you said, just kind of stay in touch with veterans and get their ideas and find out where we weren't meeting our expectations in terms of our service to them and the supports that they deserve and that we want to make sure that they get. And so the Veterans Consortium, we would meet on a quarterly basis with, probably 20 veterans from across the district, and we'd have speakers come in, and that was a way for me to stay in close touch. So I've had to kind of replicate that in other ways with COVID, obviously. But today, on Veterans Day, I had the chance to talk with a number of veterans and military families, which was really nice and a good way to reconnect.
That's outstanding. And I know one of the events that you enjoy a lot, which you don't sit down and eat too much, but I know how much you enjoy Veterans Breakfast on the first Fridays.
I know. See, you can't eat and talk at the same time, and I'd rather talk. So that's what I usually do.
Come on,
yeah, that breakfast.
It's not about the chip beef. Come on.
The reviews are not coming in. The stories about. I want to just commend Hank, and I know he's going to hopefully hop on here shortly.
They're having just a little connection trouble right now. We're trying to work that out right now.
Yeah, so he's just been such a tremendous leader in setting up the Veterans Breakfast, which is kind of renowned in the region for being one of the most active. I know I have some of my Hopkinton or Holliston constituents who come over and go to that breakfast. But that really is a place for me to hear all kinds of stories. And it's also a chance, many of you may know, we work sometimes, and with Mike Whalen, in fact, who works for the VA, if veterans are having a hard time getting benefits, federal benefits, for example, that's a great way for me to hear about them. And Sarah Bateman, the VSO, does a great job, kind of working with some of those claims. And when I hear about things, I try to direct people to her and just make a lot of necessary connections to make sure that people have access to both the state and federal programs that are out there for them.
Right. And for people at home, Sarah Bateman is our town's veterans agent, and she works, I believe, in Holliston and
Hopkinton, Ashland, and Medway.
Ashland and Medway, yes. Sounds familiar. Sounds like somebody's district to me.
It's almost pretty close.
Well, it's pretty close. And Sarah, which will be on our show after the holidays, we'll have her on to talk about what she does. So with those Veterans Breakfasts, of course, you see a lot of the same faces at your other events that you do. And I know one of your big ones is your senior lunch.
Yeah, that was
barbecue. How do you call it?
Picnic, senior picnic.
Senior picnic. That's what it was.
Yeah. And I think you've heard the story about that. That was actually started by a veteran here in Hopkinton, Bob Lavoie, who sadly we just lost not too long ago. But that is a tradition, again, that's district wide, but began right here in Hopkinton from one of our veterans who I can think of no more appropriate example of service to the community than Mr. Lavoie, who served in 2 wars, as well as, service to the community, just taking time to bring community members together for fellowship and to keep connected. So to be able to carry on that tradition, which Barbara Gardner, I know, who preceded me, as well as Paul Lescoco, and then to me. So it's just a privilege to be able to keep doing that. We were really sad. This is the first year we haven't had the picnic in, decades.
Decades. Yeah. I used to enjoy it too. I used to love watching them, watching you work. And I'm going to share, because that was the whole purpose of me mentioning the senior picnic, was because of Bob Lavoie, who was, one of Hopkins' favorite veterans. And this year was from a few years ago. I believe it was 2017 at Town Hall. Because normally, as we know, the Veterans Day celebration is usually indoor. And it expanded beyond the small confines of the meeting chamber at Town Hall to the senior center in St. John's. So, and I just want to share this picture. I posted this today because, a couple of my favorite vets that are in this picture, and included our favorite, Bob Lavoie, which is a great day. So I see Hank is with us, and
I don't know how I did it.
Yeah, we know how you did it, Hank. We saw her.
Yeah, we know how you did it. It's called Judy.
That's right. That's right. Hello, how are you all?
Every great TV star is a woman starting everything.
So anyways, Hank, thanks for joining. Hopefully you got to hear some of what Carol's been talking about. We just got done talking about the Veterans Breakfast. And one of the things that I want to talk about the Veterans Breakfast, and you know how much I love veterans, my brothers, and come from a Marine Corps family myself, and the veterans are near and dear to my heart. One of the best things that ever impressed me, and I'm going to say, and Judy will probably correct me, but I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago, someone donated the Veterans Breakfast, which used to cost, what was it, $3 whole?
Yeah.
And somebody says, hey, I want to buy everyone breakfast. And now it's been, I think, almost 7 years that not a single veteran has bought a breakfast because...
I can't remember. I can't remember the last time we had to pay for a breakfast. It's been wonderful.
The community reached out. They caught wind of it, and they just want to know more and more. And the last time, I usually try to sponsor 1 or 2 a year. I know Carolyn does as well, and a lot of people do it. And the last time that I sponsored, she says, yeah, it's going to be about 6 months.
That's right. That's right. She's got a long list now.
And that's fantastic. That is fantastic. So, Hank, thank you for coming. We missed you today on the Common.
Yeah.
Hopefully you got to watch.
Yes.
So, Hank, you are known, not the last Veterans Breakfast, which was Friday, which I missed, but the one before, you were honored by your fellow vets for all you do, because you do a little bit for our town, right?
Right. I try.
You're very humble about it. And even Carolyn knows this too, how humbled you are by it. And, share, what's a few things that you like to do to keep your kids involved?
In addition to the breakfast, we have the Vets Photo Gallery, now with well over 600 photos in it. And we have Veterans Remember, which are the videos that are shot in your studios.
Yep. And there's a link right there for you, Hank, for the show. You can get them by War, and you can see some great pictures. All on hosted by HCAM.
Yes, HCAM was who allowed the first shot to be fired in all that we do. Jim Cousins just fell off his chair when he was posed the for instance. And maybe what might be interesting is how this started. When Judy and I moved to Hopkinton, I was still working hard and flying all over the country, all over the world, I guess you could say. And I had a client event every November. I was forced to go to Las Vegas to a trade show. And I just never was home to go to the Vets Appreciation Dinner at the Rod and Gun Club. So this one year, I did, out of the blue. And I was walking around the event, getting to know some people, and I bump into this Rosemary person. And she's carrying a ratty old newspaper. I don't know how many years it was around. And she was pointing out to all her friends pictures of people in the newspaper. And they were all giggling about how this person looked when they were so young or so old. And I had this brilliant idea of why couldn't those pictures be of veterans? So I went around town after that. I grabbed a couple of photos myself and a few friends, and I tried to sell the idea, and I wasn't succeeding very well until someone suggested Jim Cousins at HCAM, and I never heard of Jim. I may not have even have heard of HCAM at the time. I went to Jim, explained the situation, and he loved it. And he's been there, and HCAM has been there ever since, hosting the 600 photographs, shooting the videos. And I think it's a great story, and it amplifies how the community is taking care of the veterans. And we have some wonderful videos, we have some wonderful photos, and you could spend a lifetime online and not get out of your living room or wherever your computer is.
You know, one of your biggest things, you also get the name TV producer because you produce this great series here, Veterans Remember, and we have all the shows airing on HCAM. There's a playlist. There's a lot of famous, non-famous Hopkinton people on here. Everyone from Aubrey Doyle, Joy, Jack Cahill.
Yeah.
So great people. What tell us what made you want to do this?
Say that again, Mike.
Tell us what wanted to make you to do an interview show. Why was it so important to interview these veterans?
Things just happen. Dick Gooding was there sitting at my elbow, and he was the Jim Cousins of that activity, and he was perfect for it. He's was at the time, since he's moved out of town, he was a town hero. He was a West Point graduate. He was decorated from his time in Vietnam, and he acted as the interviewer, although he doesn't like that term, interview. And we got some, I think, great pictures in 28 minutes each of veterans' activities when they were in the service. And I hope and pray that someday that group of photographs and that group of videos becomes fodder for teaching our young kids really what happened in the war. What did you do in the war, Daddy? And it eliminates the progressive view on World War II and Vietnam and whatever. But you mentioned a couple. We've got Gene Flannery with the breakout in Korea. And of course, the Cahills. And John, the son, kind of goes under the radar. His father gets all the notoriety, but I, with tongue in cheek, say on a long weekend, he was in the battle at Da Nang, Hue, and Khe Sanh. This was during Tet. It just fell out of the sky when it came to John. And he, you could argue, was in a tougher time than his father, although I wouldn't say that if his father were here. And the last marathon, they honored Russ Phipps Sr., and he was on Tinian when it all happened. The bomb, if you remember, took off from Tinian on the way to Japan. And I get goose pimples when I think about all these little historic vignettes. Our guys were there. They literally helped shape history. And I can go on forever, but maybe you've got some other things to talk about.
I just wanted to comment, I know I don't want to embarrass you, you do so much, but I wanted to mention one other thing that's been really made an impression on me that you do, which is you really make a point, or you certainly made a point to me about the importance of recognizing the next generation of veterans, the current armed services members, to recognize their service when they come home, and how important it is for the public to recognize that service. I just would, be curious to hear your thoughts on that. It's obviously something that's important to you. It's important to the rest of us, but you have a certain perspective that I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, Carolyn. That's kind of a hole in what I imagine happening here. We're getting fewer and fewer veterans attrition, and just fewer and fewer people joining the service. So we're not going to have a lot of people to choose from to be direct participants in our activities. And I think we should, if we had the infrastructure, we should try to get some of these younger people. I mean, we've got people have been in the Gulf War. I think of Cheryl Becker. She's the highest ranking female that we have. She was in the Gulf War. Evan Brooks was over there. Your friend Bert Comfort was over there. And we have a number of them, but they're not really involved in our activities. And I would love to somehow get those people reeled in. I don't have the answer to how to do that.
Yeah, and that's been a challenge for us at the state as well. You look at the VFWs and the American Legions, which are really a home, for veterans of past generations. And this generation interacts a little differently. They do a lot of interaction online, but it's been neat to see some of these groups that are coming up around activities, physical activities. That Muddy Rucker event. There's one of those for veterans and things like that. So they're starting to build that infrastructure. But I agree with you, Hank. I think that's something we need to do a better job at.
Yeah, and it can be done. I just don't know how. Our kids and their families live in the Burlington, Vermont area, actually Colchester. And there's an American Legion up there. I can't tell you the number of the post, but I try to go in there and have a hot cocoa when I'm up there. And that place is just jumping. It's always crowded. It's run like a business, and everyone likes everyone else. Matter of fact, there was the president of it one year was from Pittsfield. And so I see that happening there. I know it can be done. And those fellows that are in that American Legion aren't any different from us. And in fact, half the place is full of wives, so that they've got a family activity in there. But of course, here in Hopkinton, we don't have a roof. We don't have a facility that we can do things like that. I don't know if that's the answer.
Well, you
but
never
I
know.
agree with you, Carolyn.
So, Hank, you also had a little part, I'm not sure how big of a role, but the Hopkinton Marines from Iwo Jima were honored with a portrait.
Yes.
Can you tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that?
I was thinking that someone might ask that.
There it is right
This
there.
portrait was given a name. It's called Honoring the Spirit.
Yep.
And another, not side story, but when I first started this, I didn't have that many photographs, and I was going on a one-on-one basis all around town, trying to get more. And I had a small pile of photos. So I'm going through them, and I don't know if it was Bob Lavoie or John Cahill. I said, oh my gosh, this guy is someone who was on Iwo Jima. And of course, I knew Iwo Jima was significant. And maybe the next day I'm going through the pile of photos again, and I find somebody else that was on Iwo Jima. I said, oh my gosh, Hopkinton didn't have that many people in the war, but look at that. Well, the long and the short of it is there are 9 people that have identification with Hopkinton that were involved in Iwo Jima. A couple of them were on ship offshore lobbing in shells, not on Iwo Jima, but they were in the battle.
The battle.
And that began the interest in Iwo Jima. And I'm trying to think, Doug Kulig was really the first. The young man who painted that picture is Dustin Neese.
I'm going to share that as you talk, Frank. There it is right here.
He's since moved on Southborough.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know what's happening, but
I'm just sharing the screen with Dustin Neese with the painting at the State House and at another venue with Cahill and Lavoie.
oh, that's great.
So when you mentioned Dustin, I want to share so
Okay.
people at home would know who Dustin is.
Yeah. I wish we could find a professional statistician to somehow put into context the statistical significance of 9 people from a town of 7,000, and they all came home. The painting, I don't know if any of you had met Dustin, young fellow. He may not even be 30, but he went to these various schools. He interviewed the 3 living veterans at the time. He actually used 2 grandsons of the veterans to pose for the picture. So if we knew any better and looked at this fellow in the foxhole, there will be a little bit about 2 grandsons in there. Each item in the picture identifies with one of the 3. The helmet on the bottom is Johnny Cahill. He was involved in a close call, and there's some blood dripping on the helmet. This white light up in the night sky doesn't look too significant to you and I, but that's a 5-inch Navy shell that was fired in from offshore to light up the area. I mean, not light it up like Times Square, but light up the area just enough so you can make shadows out. So if you're the point guy that night, and that light up there helps you see that shadow shouldn't be there, and you do whatever you have to do. But the uniform. Oh, who's the fellow that makes all those epic TV movies? He did it on the Civil War, and he did
Burns, I think, right, Hank?
Yes, and he did something. I don't know if he did it on the Pacific or did he do it on the war in general. But you can imagine, he's kind of a big shot when it comes to the media like that. This uniform came from his offices. I don't know who made contact, but somebody did. And so that is very much a replication of what they were wearing at that very time. And that's an M1, it's not an M16.
Right.
And it's 10.5 pounds, and it's heavy at the end of the day. I read about that. But anyways, yes, I don't know where you want me to go with that, other than I actually have a few of those. Oh, I know where I could go. Maybe one of you has an idea. I let this one get away from me. I think the painting is absolutely wonderful. I'm not an art critic, but I think it's great quality. But that wonderful painting, and it's what, 2.5 by 3.5, something like that. It's fairly substantial. It's hanging in the museum at Quantico. And that on paper reads nicely, but our veterans aren't getting anything out of that. I was hoping that the end product would be in Town Hall or, gosh, at Colella's for all I know, but in a well-trafficked place that everybody in our town can see it and pay homage to our EWO vets, but it isn't here.
It made national news. That's what happened.
Yeah. And here's Judy with a framed version of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's all the vets that were that
Bob
inspired.
Lavoie let me have his copy.
That's great. Thanks, Judy. You're the best. We don't
Maybe we
can't
could
go
find a
without
spot
you.
for it in the new library. That would be a good place for it to be put.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it would be, just get it framed. Doesn't have to be ornate. And maybe a little caption that explains what it is. I think it's a tremendous asset to our history. And as significant as that is, I'm more taken by the same set of events occurring in Okinawa. We had 24 from Hopkinton in Okinawa.
Right.
Count that on your fingers, man. It's just amazing. And, one of the guys that was there is your friend, Richard Brault.
Yeah.
Tinian, Saipan, Okinawa, the occupation of Japan. You have to be blown away. And it's history right here in town. And I wish that we could do something to capture this information and have our students digest at least part of it. They've got to be impressed.
I
was
know.
gonna
I'm sorry, Carol. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, Hank, to thank you, because that experience of watching that portrait come together was a tremendous history lesson for me. I was not at all aware of the significance of the Battle of Iwo Jima, which is really a standout in Marine Corps history.
Oh, absolutely.
They still talk about, new Marine recruits still talk about the veterans of Iwo Jima, and just what a remarkable, courageous, relentless, really commentary that was on the human spirit, right? Just being able to come back again and again to fight under, awful conditions. When you look at the number of veterans or soldiers that were lost in that battle, it's really tremendous. And I wasn't aware of any of that history. I never learned that in school. And it was only through your efforts and through the local efforts to do this. So I agree with you. It's a powerful thing. And I'm looking forward to learning more about Okinawa, as a matter of fact. My dad actually served over there right after the end of the war, and I don't know much about that history, and I'd like to.
Oh, really? I was stationed there myself. And obviously not in the war, but I enjoyed it very much. And we had, who's the fellow in the center of town, a Marine lieutenant who just came home about a year ago. He was stationed in Okinawa. Oh, I can see him, but I can't tell you his name. But we have a young man in town.
Was it a Tom something? Oh, I can't think of it either. I know. I'm right with you, Hank, on those.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so Hank, all right. So you've done a lot of great things. You still do a lot of great things, and you continue to inspire all of us. Why do you tie baseball into military history? What is up with that?
You know,
How
did
how
you
did
ever did you ever know Greeno?
Yes,
He's at the end of Church Street there. I mean, he's dead now.
he's gone. Yes.
He was always at our table, and he was a pip. You know, a little short guy, you know, and he sitting there, and he'd be talking to everybody, but he'd be mumbling. We didn't know what the heck he was saying. And he prided himself in being a baseball scholar. So we'd sit there, and part of the conversation was, do you remember back in 1943 when Ted Williams, la, 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 and he would come up with these historical facts, I put in quotation marks. They were always wrong. So, Eric would be sitting there too, and some other guys, and we'd laugh like the dickens, after the fact. We tried not to laugh at him, but sometimes we did. And after he was gone, we thought that was kind of a good idea, and it just has perpetuated. I mean, I'm a baseball fan as it is, but still that was the linkage to the veterans. And there is that thing floating around your computer where we put together, Art Lowell helped me, that write up about veterans and baseball players.
Yes.
I thought that was fantastic how it came together. The Yankees and the Red Sox and all of those guys who were veterans. And we talk about Ted Williams and all he did in 2 wars. Well, God forgive me, but I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah, we know, Hank. We still talk.
Jerry Coleman was in the same 2 wars. They flew different aircraft. I give you that Williams aircraft was more manly, but Coleman earned more medals than Williams. But that was the type of the fellow that we had in those times. Whereas now, I think we'd have to, we won't need both hands to count how many people are fighting in the military from the major leagues today. Not that that is a measure of a man, but.
Right. So, Hank, you also brought it to Hopkinton too, and we had a famous military baseball player in our town.
Oh, are you talking the guy up on the hill?
Mr. Phipps.
Oh, Phip. No, I was, because we had Eckersley for a while.
Yeah, yeah, we had Eckersley, but I'm talking about one of Hopkinton's own that
Yeah.
played baseball in the court.
That's a great story. Yeah. Are you a baseball fan, Carolyn?
I'm not, but I am definitely a fan of that story of Mr. Phipps. And
Okay, are you from, okay.
baseball. Yeah.
And his playing with blacks was before Jackie Robinson cracked the barrier in the major leagues. So he's the leader. Jackie Robinson's the follower. Not really.
That's a great story. So, hey, Veterans Day, you know, with the COVID, everything going on, it was a limited service, and it still continued, which you must be happy that it gets to continue. And I want to share with people just a little bit of today, if you don't mind, of what people can see on HCAM. And this here is one of my favorite parts, and always one of my favorite parts, is the Scouts presented the colors.
Detail, attend hut, and hand salute.
Oh, and it just died on me. Okay. So, anyways.
Well, while you're doing that, it shouldn't be forgotten that Don McNeil and his old guard, they're really working hard, and they don't ask anything for it.
Right.
And you should recognize that. He's a go-getter.
Well, yes, I was going to show you them. I was going to show that there was a lot of things that happened that day. Obviously, Carolyn couldn't be there for another commitment, but we got her ahead of time. So she looks really great in the final video. But the old guard, they do a lot, not just, these services here, but they do like supports for groups,
Mhm.
Like feeding them and everything. They ask for nothing.
Right. Right.
Super group.
Yeah.
So now that you have, let's see, you're a TV producer, you're a breakfast organizer, in Marathon too, you were also key in getting the Army to come down during Marathon weekend.
Yeah. I like that.
Explain
those
explain
two quantities.
what you did for that.
Well, I'm trying to remember when it all started. I think it might have been one of the first meetings, first breakfast meetings that I invited the labs to come and give a presentation. And they gave us a presentation on new designs in food. And I struck it up with David Aceta, and a heck of a nice guy. He's retired military. He's now a civilian over there. And he worked closely with a fellow named Norm Harkins. And Norm was in the Air Force in his younger day. And today is the president of the Association of the United States Army. I never heard of the outfit before I met Norm, but those two Quonset huts that we see every year technically aren't the labs. They are. The labs loan it to the group that Norman is involved with. It's really the Association of the United States Army that sponsors it. And if you take time to go into those Quonsets, there's a lot of interesting material.
Yeah, and I remember one year, and I'm trying to find the photo because I got it, when they were showing the different uniforms over the years.
Yes.
Of the Army, and it's killing me. I'm looking right now as we're talking. Hopefully, Bob, step in with a question here because I have to find this photo of somebody's uniform.
Yeah, I know where you're going, Michael.
Well, one of the other things that I remember about the Army being on the Common, there was a military bus, like a school bus, and they had a lot of information about POWs during the wars. And that was a fascinating thing. And both my wife and I spent almost an hour in there, and it was.
I'm glad you remembered that. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we were in the tents as well, and I do remember seeing the different uniforms. So that was interesting too. And when you mentioned earlier the carbine, that was a heavy gun to hold, especially when you had to hold it at post for a half hour.
Well, I think I know where Mike is going with that photo he's looking for. And all I can do is tell you I was 175 pounds.
Yeah.
It looked like you were 75 pounds the way that thing put on the mannequin.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to
But
find
you're still as handsome today as you were then.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But we, both in Vietnam and Okinawa, if we gained a pound or lost a pound, we would just run down to the seamstress and say, take it in or take it out. And we were walking around almost like the uniforms were painted on us. We wouldn't dare look sloppy. Yeah, good memories.
Hank, so can you tell the people what great thing out of your show? And I know you don't like to take a lot of credit for anything that you do, but Veterans Remember made it beyond Hopkinton.
They went to, yes.
Please tell us where other people can find our Hopkinton veteran stories?
Yeah, I don't know. I can find out for you. I don't know. Actually, that's something that Dick was really hot on.
It-
Yeah, but it's in the archives of the national government, something or other. Um, I just
it's
don't
that,
know by
it's that,
memory.
it's that little library branch called the Library of Congress,
Congress.
Ah,
right? Those stories sit in the Library of Congress.
yeah,
And these are stories that my grandchildren, which coming next year I'll be a grandfather, they're never going to hear unless they hear them from watching a show like Veterans Remember.
right. You're absolutely right, Mike. Absolutely right. Yeah,
And that's why it was so important. And I remember when you were producing and trying to get the guests, you were really hot and heavy on getting the guests. And you said, oh, we need to get some other people in here other than all these World War II guys. And my words to you was, let's get the World War II guys in here now before we don't have them anymore to tell these stories. And you did, and you worked tirelessly.
yep.
And even times that Dick couldn't host it, you jumped in the hosting chair, which I know you hated. You like being behind the scenes more, producing, right? And I think he froze up a little.
Yes.
There you are.
He'll
Yeah.
be back.
And you were choppy.
Yeah, I know.
You were
You
choppy.
were slowing down. So, but I was just saying how much that you enjoyed being behind the scenes producing it, but a few times you had to sit in Dick's seat and host.
Right. Right.
But you did a great job. I mean, you know how to
Yeah.
pull the stories. Do you remember some of your favorite interviewees that you took care of?
Well, I enjoyed, and I think Dick did the interview though, but I enjoyed Gene Flannery's show. I mean, he was so close to history at that time. He was the gunner in that tank, blowing the dickens out of, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 human roadblocks. The road they were coming out of the Chosen on was called the MSR, Mass Supply Route. One way in, one way out, and the tank could just about fit on that road. And the Chinese, if you remember, didn't have a lot of high-tech weaponry. All they had was thousands of bodies, and they would block the road that way. And Gene would say, you'd be surprised what a 90 millimeter would do to a body. And he got the fellows out of the Chosen that way. And I don't know, I just think that was amazing what he did. I remember one day I was ragging him, might have been at one of the breakfasts. I said, Gene, I was talking to Lavoie the other day, and he said, you had it easy because you were in the tank nice and warm. And Gene jumped up. He said, like heck, the engine of the tank is way in the back, and where he and the crew were sitting didn't have any heat whatever. And they had to stop the Jeep once in a while to get out and just walk around to get the blood moving. But I enjoyed that one. And I enjoyed John Cahill, the son.
Right.
In
How
my
would that-
experience, the veterans speak so rarely. It's very special for veterans to tell their stories. They don't usually offer it. And what's remarkable to me
Right.
about these interviews is that they really share things that very few people have heard before. And Hank, I know you've known these men for a long time. Was there anything that you felt, hearing these stories maybe helped you understand who they were a little better? Military service is
Yeah.
such a formative part of someone's life, but you hear so little about it.
you know. Well, that's a roadblock, what you've talked about. So often, oh, he never talked about that, or he never said anything. And it takes time. And my biggest accomplishment, in my opinion, is getting Bob Lavoie talking. Bob, if you don't tell me what happened to you, your grandkids are never going to know. And I bug them and bug them. And it's kind of the same thing with those conversations in the videos. This is me conjecturing. I was only in for 2 years active duty. Dick was much, many more years. But we both were in the military. It wasn't like a cub reporter asking questions. And I was in Vietnam, Dick was in Vietnam, and it was a way to melt the ice. And you had to be careful as to how probing your questions are. I mean, they don't want to talk about the bloody battles, firsthand. I don't mean to say they were in hand-to-hand combat, but they might have been. But it was, I think, something you develop naturally over time. And once you get it with the guys, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And as I say, Bob Lavoie really loosened up as time went on. And he enjoyed talking about it in, later years.
And I'm sure having the chance to talk about it with another veteran was a unique opportunity. And I'm not sure that veterans necessarily would have shared with other people, which is why your effort is so much more important.
Yeah, I think you're right in that one. I mean, even talking to your wife, say, what does she know about such and such? And it might be a difficult thing to answer. I don't know. I don't know if that's absolutely true, but it might be. It might be.
It's great too. You also have the opposite too. You have people like Jerry Belker.
Yes.
He loved talking about it, and he was wasn't he one of our first guests to bring props on the show?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. He loved to talk about it. He always had that little cardboard box. It was even smaller than a shoebox with his Luger in it. Loved talking about it.
Yeah, Jerry Bunker, who was a commando, the man behind enemy lines during World War II. Amazing story. So that's the kind of things that you were able to bring out. And the picture gallery, the actual slideshow that's on HCAM. Let me see if I think I have it here. So the slideshow that you can see all our veterans. It went beyond the slideshow. It went beyond HCAM. Now every month, when you go down to the Spoon and you walk in their little hallway, they print out these pictures and they honor our veterans. It's like they got a half dozen, I think, Hank, and they change them up all the time.
Yeah, at a time. Yeah, they change every week or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a techie enough, Mike or Bob. Yeah. I see that thing down at the Spoon and have gotten a lot of great comments on it. I mean, people really like that, trying to ferret out their own relatives. Is there I'm sure the technology exists, but is there a technology available to people like you and me? Imagine the biggest possible flat screen TV. And I don't know how big that is. Yep. But I'm sure it's pretty big. And have it mounted in some way that it's protected from the weather. And having that at the Common and having those photographs that you see at the Spoon repeat and repeat. I think that would be grand.
That
But-
sounds like a great project for a scout, and definitely, yes, it can be done. Digital signage like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a fantastic idea. And one of the things that just before COVID settled in, and I was talking with Mary and Mary Prescott down at the Spoon, is the TV over that they have over the counter. We're gonna play the slideshow on that. So
Oh,
when things get back to normal, if they ever do, you are not going to see the daily news. You are going to see the veteran slideshow on that TV.
that figurative right now, but that big flat screen TV, how much is that? Is that $1,000? Is that $10,000?
It's a couple thousand plus all the technology that goes with it and mounting, so it's secure that nobody walks away with it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Listen, anything can be done. You have the imagination. Let's talk tomorrow about that.
All right. Great.
So, Hank, what do you see coming up? I mean, listen, we got this COVID thing. What do you see coming up for our veterans? What anything in the future you can foresee, or anything that they need help with?
Well, I don't know the answer to the last question, but every time I'm down at the VA, there's a little office off to the side. And a couple of years ago, there was an article in one of the military magazines about the suicide rate, and that's going off the charts. And this one particular organization, and I don't remember what it is, but they kept a close record of all the people that have expressed any inkling towards committing suicide. And I was thinking of maybe knocking on their door and find out whether in their records they can identify a vet or two in Hopkinton or in the surrounding towns locally that has expressed a suicide tendency. Excuse me. And maybe it's a matter of inviting him or her, it doesn't have to be a him, to our breakfast and just exposing himself to other vets. And we don't talk about heavy stuff at these breakfasts. We talk about baseball or something.
We listen to a joke from Jack.
Yes. Oh, gee, he's great. He's absolutely great.
That makes it. You always finish up with Jack with the last word, and that makes everyone leaving the place smiling.
Yeah. Oh, he's great.
So anyways, militaryveteranproject.org helps with the military suicide awareness. It's called the 22 a day project, and 22 a day is because there's 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and because they don't seek the help or they're not getting the help or whatever. And this project here does help with the awareness and helps everybody get what they need. And 22 a day, it's just something.
Is there anything from that we can see evidence here in town?
No, because it's very private. Everything's very, very private. So, but listen, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your days to come out, Carol, especially how busy you are. You stayed on the whole hour. That was awesome.
Yeah,
I just
great
Well, this
show.
is-
Really
20 minutes,
appreciate
I got 60. That was great.
I can't, when Hank's talking, I can't walk away from that. A lot of good.
Crying out loud.
Hank, you were definitely missed today on the Common.
Well, I sent an email to Mike, and this is a problem with vets, I think. I'm 80 years old, and I've got a whole host of ancillary ailments, and that's the formula for checking out. And I just didn't want to be exposed to
That's why I wanted to get you here. But Frank, we have to go. We have to close.
Okay.
We'll play some music and some end credits. Thank you everyone for watching the Hopkins Hangout Hour.
Okay, have a good evening. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks, guys.
Night, night. Yeah, I thought, the way he talked, I thought it was gonna be, 20 minutes apiece.